Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our today's lecture is about the body composition and different cellular compartments. At the end of today's lecture, you will have knowledge of body composition, what makes up our body, various body fluid compartments, and the distribution of especially water in the body fluid compartments. That is, you will have knowledge about different body fluid compartments like interstitial fluid, blood plasma, and lymph. And another concept that you already know, what is the internal environment of the body and why we call extracellular fluid as the internal environment of the body. Then cell swelling, the concept of cell swelling and cell shrinkage. Then what is edema? And then brainstorming activity for you people. That is about isotonic fluid, hypotonic fluid, and hypertonic fluids. And their relation to normal cell function So the first is body composition. Our body is composed of minerals, fats, proteins and related substances, and water. The minerals are 7%, the fats are 15%, proteins and related substances they are 18%, while the water in the body it makes up 60% of total body weight. So the minerals are 7% of total body weight, fats are 15% of total body weight, the proteins and related substances are 18% of total body weight, and water is 60% of total body weight. And this 60% water, it is present, its 2/3 is present in the ICF. ICF means intracellular fluid. That is the fluid within the cells. And 1/3 is present outside the cells, and that is called extracellular fluid. And the extracellular fluid includes interstitial fluid and blood plasma. And blood plasma, it includes the fluid that is present in the closed circulatory system. It includes cellular elements. It includes fluid. It includes cellular elements, all cellular elements. And the major contribution is by the red blood cells. And then lymph. Together, all these things, they make up the total blood plasma or the total plasma volume in the body. And these compartments, intracellular and extracellular, they are important for cell function. The fluid compartments intracellular, there are two compartments, intracellular and extracellular. Each cell, it is lined by a thin membrane that is called cell membrane or the plasma membrane. And the fluid inside the cells, it is called intracellular fluid. And the cell interior, it is separated from the outside by a thin plasma membrane that basically permits movement of ions and molecules into the cells. Cell membrane, it permits movement into and out of cells. So these are very simple things. You have studied these things in FSC, maybe in 9th, 10th. But when we start physiology, we start with combining all your knowledge, previous knowledge. So these are basically the basic, your general lectures that are, you can say, the foundation of the physiology. And whole physiology, it rotates around these things. So, while the extracellular fluid compartment, it is the compartment that is present outside the cell. And extracellular fluid, you can say the cells are present basically within the extracellular fluid. And extracellular fluid, it bathes the cells. It bathes the cells. So you can see simply the cells are present in internal sea of water, that is extracellular fluid. And all the cells, they take up O2 and nutrients for their use, and the cells, and they take up from extracellular fluid and they discharge waste products into the extracellular fluid so that it can be excreted from the body. So the distribution of water in the body compartments. This total distribution of water is discussed. Basically, it is taken from Genong. This is not present in the guide. This is taken up from the Genong figure. So this is the total volume. The water, it makes up 60% of the body weight, and according to that, the volume of water is 42 liters in the body, and this is for a normal 70 kg young man, young adult, and this distribution is according to, that is calculated from a 70 kilogram normal young adult. So the extracellular fluid, its volume is 14 liters. Its volume is 14 liters. While the intracellular fluid, it is 28 liters. And together these two, they make up 42 liters. And out of this 14 liter, 11 liter is present in the interstitial fluid, while 3 liter is present in the circulatory system. It is present in the circulatory system. That includes blood vessels and also lymph. So what is interstitial fluid? What is interstitial fluid? It is a fluid that is present between the cell and the circulatory system or the blood vessels. So interstitial fluid is the fluid that is present between cells. Between cells. Number 2, between cells and outside circulatory system. And plasma volume is 3 liters, and plasma volume is composed of cellular elements and also fluid. So what is lymph system? Why it is so necessary that I am mentioning again and again? Our last objective is, at the end of this lecture, you will be familiar about the edema, that is swelling. The swelling may be in the extracellular compartments, the swelling may be in the cells. So, what is the role of lymph? The fluid, basically the cells, drives their nutrients and oxygen from the arterial end of the capillaries. From the arterial end of the capillaries, oxygen and nutrients, they comes out and they moves into the cells through plasma membrane. So all the fluid that comes out of the arterial end of the capillaries is the same as the blood capillaries, except proteins are not present, except cells are not present. Then these nutrients and oxygen, they are used by the cells, and then the cell use them for energy purpose and for the formation of new proteins. How those new proteins, they enter into the circulation and reaches other portions of the body. They comes out of the cells, they enter the interstitial space, and from the interstitial space, where they move? I need. Where they move? I can't listen. Where proteins and other large molecules that are synthesized by the cells, how they enter into the circulation? Through lymphatics. So if the lymph channels, they are blocked, they will not enter into the circulatory system. And what will happen? There will be swelling of that specific compartment where there is lymph blockage. The lymph channels, they are present throughout the body, except few places. They are present throughout the body. So, about 1/10 of the fluid, about 1/10 of the fluid that comes out of the blood capillaries, arterial end of the blood capillaries, it returns to the blood through lymphatic system rather than through the venous capillaries. Through the venous capillaries. And the lymph, it drains large molecular substances that are proteins. The lymph also plays a role in the absorption of nutrients from the gastrointestinal tract. The lymph also carries large particles such as bacteria. And the bacteria from the interstitial spaces, they get their entry into the lymph channels. Because the arrangement of the endothelial cells in the wall of lymph channels is such that they have large pores. They have large pores. And the movement of substances across the blood capillaries, across the cells, it depends upon the presence of pores. And the pores, they depend upon the movement of substances, it depends upon the size of the pore. And the second thing is concentration gradient. The second thing is concentration gradient. So this is the importance of lymph system. Then the concept of body's internal and external environment. Now, what exactly is external environment? What is your answer? It is the, what exactly is internal environment? What is internal environment? Give them a mic. So my question is, what exactly is internal environment? Ji, what is your answer?
Outside the cell, extracellular fluid is basically an internal environment because it provides the cell with nutrients, oxygen, and other things that are essential to the metabolic activities of the cell.
So it is
Basically,
extracellular fluid. It is extracellular fluid. So, why it is so? What are the reasons? And what is the importance of, what is the function of this extracellular fluid and how it is regulated? So, our questions are, question number 1, what is the functions of extracellular fluid? And question number 2 is, how it is regulated? G, any idea about this? This is from your previous knowledge.
actually, the extracellular fluid basically provides a link between the blood vessel system, circulatory system, and the cell because there is no direct link between the blood circulatory system and the cell to provide them with the nutrients and oxygen, which is basically essential for the life of the cell. Because if the oxygen is not available, there is no regeneration. There is no regeneration.
Anybody else? J. Anybody else? J. Okay. So simply, extracellular fluid, you can say it is a transition between the circulatory system and the cells. It is the transition. Do you agree with this thing? Transition means its composition is continuously changing according to the requirement of the cells. If some cell is working more, if some cell is working more, it needs more nutrients and needs more oxygen supply. So it is locally regulated. It is locally regulated. So after usage, the things they become balanced. So the function of extracellular fluid is, it is a transition between intracellular fluid and external environment of the body. It is transition between intracellular fluid and organisms external environment. Now, what is external environment? Outside the body. Outside the body. So, one is internal environment, that is called extracellular fluid. One is external environment, that is outside the organism. Outside the organism. Then the second function of the extracellular fluid are the internal environment of the body. That is, you can say, it is the sea in which the cells are present. The second function is, it acts as the extracellular fluid. It provides buffer zone. It provides buffer zone. How it provides buffer zone? Normally, the cells, here comes the concept of isotonicity. The intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid, they are in isosmotic balance. They are in isosmotic balance. So both fluids, they are isotonic to each other. If there is some change, normally when we are talking about the tonicity of the fluids, we are talking about the tonicity of extracellular fluid. We are talking about the tonicity of extracellular fluid. And the extracellular fluid, if it becomes hypertonic, what will happen? If the extracellular fluid ECF, it becomes hypertonic, there will be cell shrinkage. Why? Because water will shift from the intracellular fluid into the extracellular fluid. If there is hypotonicity, cell swelling will occur. Cell swelling will occur. So these things, the isosmotic environment in the extracellular fluid, in the intracellular fluid, it is very closely regulated. It is very closely regulated. And different mechanisms, it is very closely regulated. And different mechanisms play a role to maintain it in a normal range. If this balance is disturbed, the cellular function will be disturbed. The cells cannot function when there is cell shrinkage. The cells cannot function when there is cell swelling. when there is cell swelling. In both cases, these both conditions, the hypertonic, hypertonic and hypotonic, both will lead to serious consequences. Both will lead to and if not corrected, results in death of your patient, death of a person. So what is edema? It is swelling. Edema is swelling, and it is the increased build-up of fluid within the tissues. It is the increased build-up of fluid within the tissues. We had taught that normally both the fluids, they are in equilibrium. Both the fluids, they are in equilibrium, and a little change in the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid composition, it is corrected immediately by the body mechanisms. When these mechanisms fail, what happens? The increased build-up of fluid, it occurs within the tissues, and that is called edema. It may be intracellular edema, it may be extracellular edema. Today, at the basic level, we are talking about the extracellular edema. What are its causes? The cause is simple: increased leak from the blood vessels. Where fluid is circulating, it is circulating in the blood vessels. So if there is increased leak from the blood means from the vessels, and number 2, or reduced removal by the lymph system. And what are the locations where you can observe edema? It is observed in feet, ankles, और कहाँ पे? Knees की बजाय you can say legs, फिर many other spaces and many other spaces. Many other spaces means around the eyes, in the abdominal cavity, in the pleural spaces, in the pericardium. ठीक है? And there are different causes when extracellular edema occurs. There are many causes of this. The first cause is increased leak from the blood vessels. The second is reduced removal by the lymph vessels. Now, when this leak occurs, when there is imbalance of forces present in the circulatory system and present outside the circulatory system in the interstitial space. And those forces are called Starling forces. There are 4 Starling forces. 1, 2, 3 and 4. The first one is hydrostatic pressure. The first one is hydrostatic pressure, where hydrostatic pressure in the blood vessels, usually in the arterioles. Second is oncotic pressure inside blood vessels. And the third is hydrostatic pressure in interstitial space. And then is fourth is oncotic pressure in interstitial space. What is the role of hydrostatic force? The hydrostatic force, it favors the movement of fluid out of blood vessels. It movement of fluid out of vessels. The most important force is the second one, and it is the oncotic pressure. It keeps fluid in blood vessels. It keeps fluid inside the blood vessels. So basically, and then the third force, that is a hydrostatic force present in the interstitial space. What it causes, it tends to move fluid from the interstitium into the blood vessels. Then is oncotic pressure in the interstitial space. It retains fluid inside the interstitial space, but normally there is very negligible amount of proteins in the interstitial space. So this pressure is normally, it is near to zero. It is near to zero. So the imbalance between these Starling forces, especially the first two, that is the oncotic pressure in the blood capillaries and the hydrostatic pressure in the blood capillary. So any disease that decreases the amount of proteins, so or any disease or any condition in which the protein leakage occurs from the blood capillaries or the protein levels in the body, that is 6 grams per deciliter, if it decreases, what will happen? The fluid, the water will not remain inside the blood vessels and it will become collected in the interstitial spaces. And these are the spaces that are present within the tissues. And that leads to edema. And usually the major diseases means the diseases that contributes to deaths in the humans, and those diseases we call them as major diseases, like liver diseases, like kidney diseases, like heart failures, especially right-sided heart failure in which the swelling occurs. In left-sided heart failure, there is collection of fluid in the pulmonary system, in the lungs, that is called pulmonary edema. This was about the today's lecture. And our next two lectures, they will be taken by the Dr. Zara, and then I will take two lectures, and on Thursday there will be a problem-based session. And in that session I will simply act as a facilitator.